accidentally lost the video that was on yesterday.
So we're gonna start over and get it right this time.
Yeah.
So what do you want to tell them about living a Gus life?
Today we're going to be talking about living a Gus life. What does that really mean? That means today we're going to be educating people about nonverbal learning disability.
All right, and it encompasses social,
It's accomplished social,
motoric,
and
and
visual spatial.
Okay, and so in the motoric department, NLD, nonverbal learning disability, have specific motoric and behavior characteristics. And sometimes we get a little clumsy. We have difficulty misjudging distance and navigating, where we are in space. Parking the car. Do you drive?
No, I do not have an interest of even driving. I have no desire to even learn how to drive at all. Because not only learning to drive is just a spatial problem, it's also the people that is driving today is a lot of road rage, and they're not very patient. And plus, taking care of cars is even more expensive. So I have no interest in driving a car or even learning how to drive. And that's what VDers will have a tough time doing, learning how to drive.
And it talks about poor coordination skills. They always tell this joke about black people are always late. They late for everything. But individuals may struggle to organize their belongings and keep track of time.
Yeah, time.
Okay, leading to being disorganized at work and in personal spaces. So that helps to say that might be the reason why we're late.
That's why we're late, because we're disorganized as well.
Okay. So tell me some ways that help you get organized.
What helped me get organized, for example, is instead of using hangers to hang my clothes, what I would use is bumpers and ottomans.
So you wouldn't have to...
So I wouldn't have to hang clothes, and I would fold the clothes, and I would put the clothes in the hamper. Yeah. Not in the hamper, but in the ottomans.
You have problems with cues, facial expression, and tone of voice, because your voice is kind of...
like very big. And who else has that big old lion voice? The voice of a lion. And who has that voice of a lion? Teddy Kennedy.
Yeah, Teddy Kennedy had a big voice, but we can't say he was nonverbal.
We can't say he was nonverbal or anything.
But he had a big booming voice.
I had a big booming voice.
And sometimes our routine gets a little predictable. We don't want to move to the next. We don't want to move to another task. It gets a little rigid. So we have to learn how to move or switch gears, change situations.
And I've been learning how to change situations a lot. Like, for instance, a lot of NLVDers don't even want to travel outside the state or outside the country. I always talk about living in different countries. An NLVDer would not talk about traveling in different countries at all.
Sometimes you have challenges in executing movement. Dancing. How's your dance?
My dance scene is really bad. You don't want to see me dancing, but I copied my brother dancing, but I still try to dance anyway.
We have fun with you dancing.
Yeah, we do.
So, what did you think about, when Gus was at the Democratic convention? What did you think about him and being in that large crowd, with all those people?
I think that Gus Walsh has done a good job at the Democratic convention, because it can be very overwhelming with a whole bunch of people. And that's another trouble with NLVDers, because they would have trouble going to different crowds.
And he could have trouble, getting lost and finding getting back to his parents, or,
Yeah, going back getting to his parents, and also bumping into people as well.
Yeah, because you bump into somebody now.
If you bump into somebody now with a bad coordination problem, you're going to be getting into a fight, and that's just a good thing, or worse, being killed.
God, that takes it to a new level. We don't want to bump into nobody and they kill us.
Yep.
What about multitasking? Do you have problems with, on-time tasks and, from dishes to laundry to
dishes? So like pouring the detergent. So what I did to compensate for that was I would buy pads
with the little pod.
with the little pods to
Because measurements.
in measurements. Yeah,
So that's the problem.
that's a problem. Although I have gotten better with that by getting baking soda with the white cups.
Baking soda with the white cup. Not the baking soda. Oh my God. But one of the things with nonverbal learning disability, this is a disability that's skipped over. And it's skipped over because people judge it as a behavior disorder.
And NLVD is not a behavioral disorder at all.
And that might have been something that Gus may have struggled with in school. Because one of the things is when you act out, people get, the district or the schools would say, we're going to throw him out of school. We're going to give him a 10-day suspension, and or either, or what is it, a 10-day suspension, or they try to change your placement, which 10 days don't necessarily mean that you have to leave the district because of your behavior, but they don't understand the behavior.
And they don't care to understand the behavior.
What do they emphasize all the time? Do you know right from what?
Do you know right from wrong?
And so when the behavior manifests and goes left, what happens?
What happens is that you're being kicked out of school and then they change your placement. That's what they do.
They change your placement?
Yeah, they do.
And then you have to draw up what?
And then you have to draw up this book, an IEP.
It's an individual educational guide.
Mm-hmm.
And normally, it's hard to, once you draw that up, the problem with the IEP is it don't get executed properly.
No, it don't.
Because what happens with the teachers?
I mean, the teachers do not have the skill sets to execute the IEP, okay?
And then after that, when they become frustrated and you've made so many IEPs, what do? They try to put you in a what?
They will put you in a self-contained school if they get frustrated if they're not implementing the IEP.
So we're going to halt right there where that IEP comes in and they try to put you in a separate self-contained school. Then you have to go out and then you have to go get what?
Then you're going to have to get independent evaluations away from the school district and away from regular psychologists and go to a neuropsychologist, which is a brain that studies the brain.
Right, because most of the time when you get those evaluations through the school district, what ends up happening is that school district is kind of fighting for who? Not for you.
Not for you, but themselves.
Yeah, for the district.
For the district.
Kind of like on the job, HR. You go to HR.
And when you go to HR, they're not working for you, they're working for the company.
That's why people have unions.
That's why people have unions, because HR works for themselves.
And a lot of people will disagree with that, but all the experiences that I've had in my life, when you go to HR, it makes it harder and worse on you.
It does. It actually makes it worse. So that's why you have to get an independent evaluation. Everything has to be independent.
What happened to Jack Swift? He was independent too, and he got thrown out the case by who?
By Justice Eileen Cannon. Eileen Cannon.
She didn't want nobody peeping in their business, huh?
No.
Oh, wow. So basically, we could say that Gus really struggled in school, but that made his father a real good, effective communicator, because look at all the times that he had to talk to Gus and figure out what Gus needed.
Yes, he did.
So that makes him very compassionate and empathetic, because he knew that when Gus was in school, that there would be these problems, and he would end up what? Educating Gus probably
himself.
Yeah, himself. I don't know if he did. I'm just saying he might have been at a school where they allowed Gus to have a peer buddy or a special person that
the peer buddy that really understands.
Yeah, the peer buddy that really understands. Also, we talked about your dance, and what about when you get frustrated and you're trying to put on that shirt, and what happens with that shirt?
What happens with that shirt, I used to put the shirts on backwards, and for a long time, I used to not buy button shirts, okay? And I used to buy shirts with logos. But now I buy button shirts, and I still buy with logos, but now I buy button shirts too.
Yeah, you found out that you could do it better.
I could do it better because I could see the hole.
You can see, yeah. That's the problem with the hanging up clothes too.
Yeah, because you have to see the hole just to see the hanging up the clothes.
See, the problem with this particular diagnosis with NLVD is people think that you don't want to develop friends in relationships. You standoffish, but you just really can't read their body
You
language.
can't read the body language now. It used to be, when reading the body language, it used to be 65% nonverbal, which is body language, and only 35% words. With automation, it's now 20% words and 80% communication, body language. Why is that? Because of automation.
Well, people have the ability to actually communicate, but they don't anymore.
They actually communicate, but they don't anymore because they're on their cell phones.
They're on their cell phones.
They're on their cell phones and on their computers, even when they're out.
Let's go to social interaction. Let's see. You might have difficulty, reading the body language. We talked about that. And your hand and gestures and postures might be a little stiff, so that might keep people away from you, right?
Right.
Okay. You might eye contact.
And it's kind of hard to be looking at people that are straight in the face. But now, if you try to look in the face, they'll say, what are you staring at? Or it could be accused of harassment. Like in Missouri has one of the liberal harassment laws. If a person don't like you, they can just call the police and say, he harassed me. It's that crazy. And that's just in my state of Missouri where I live.
What do they say? You had that thing of dominating the conversation, not exchanging, back and forth.
Not going back and forth, exchanging ideas.
But you've gotten a lot better.
Really a lot better at that.
And sarcasm jokes. When somebody tells a joke, sometimes you say it went over your head.
It went over your head, or you can take it literally.
So, when we go back to Gus and the things that they were saying about him, what do you think that, like Gus, I don't think that feedback probably got to him. How did you feel?
I thought I was very insulted because once you made fun of Gus Waltz, you made fun of a person with nonverbal learning disability and unique abilities. We don't even say the word disability, okay? Because the word disability is you had it and it was taken away from you either by choice or non-choice. That's the disability. If you look at the term in the dictionary, the word...
Yeah, the word disability is like a disconnection, and we all are disconnected.
And we all disconnected in any way, in some way.
But we all have something special and different as individuals.
Yes.
That's why we say we're all unique.
We're unique, so we call them unique minds, extraordinary minds, and extraordinary brains.
Extraordinary brains. Okay. So what did you think about Ann Coulter?
When Ann Coulter made fun of Gus Waltz, to me, she is the Phyllis Schlafly of our generation.
Okay, they may not know who Phyllis Schlafly is.
Phyllis Schlafly back in the 70s was the one that blocked the ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment, which had devastating consequences still to this day for not just for women, but also for LGBT community.
Oh, okay.
Phyllis Schlafly.
Okay, so she just didn't like that community.
No, she did not like that community at all. And she also was the one that did not like a lot of black people either. When there was some black people to the Republican Party, she gave up and said black people will not be going to the Republican Party. That was Phyllis Schlafly.
Okay, so where does NLD get in trouble at?
NLVD gets in trouble with telling the truth.
Okay, with telling the truth, because if somebody asks you something,
you're going to tell the truth. You're just going to tell it like it is, no matter what happens. And they look at it as rude, as harsh.
As you being blatant
and you're being blatant and you being harsh. And NLVD or unique ability like mine are not going to make good criminals, okay? Because here's the thing: to make a criminal, you have to plan. And NLVD has unintentional behavior.
Right, and they're not emotionally disturbed, because the problem with that is that emotionally they don't understand people's emotions, and when they use the word empathy, that's something that we go back and forth on.
We go back and forth on empathy, putting people on people's shoes. But sometimes I put it like I don't even get into situations to do empathy in the first place.
Yeah, well, that's just
that's just me.
Yeah, that's part of the unique ability, because understanding what somebody else is feeling is kind of hard when you don't understand basically what you're feeling.
Yeah, it is very hard.
And sometimes people might feel like, oh, well, they blowing me off, because the bottom line on this is They don't care. But we'll go back to empathy again. A lot of people didn't have empathy when they made that statement about Gus Walsh. That was pretty rude.
It was worse than rude.
Yeah. So we're seeing more and more of this type of behavior.
We're seeing this more and more type of behavior because there is a permission structure to act this way, not just online, but interpersonally as well.
Okay. And like I said, a lot of people today are walking around with this unique ability. They haven't
3 million to be exact, and that's just known. But there's a lot more higher people that was diagnosed with NLVD that was undiagnosed. So 3 million is just a conservative answer.
See, and this is another thing too. Uh, and even with YouTube, I struggle with that because they always talk about thumbnails and identifying facial expression and which one you're gonna click on to. The bottom line is a lot of people can't read that. They just go to YouTube and just look at it and say, oh well, this looks exciting. But it's coming to where like I said, people cannot there's a lot of people out there that can't read that information. And they might have to switch up also. They might have to switch up. So in Gus' situation, you think Gus probably struggled or was bullied in school or?
I think he was probably bullied. I don't know what his situation, but I think he was probably bullied a little bit in school.
But somebody else that has this unique ability, and that was who?
And someone else that had this unique ability was Chris Rock.
Was he bullied?
I mean, he was bullied all his life, and he was not diagnosed until he was 54 years old. The average age for a diagnosis with nonverbal learning disability is at the age of 40 years old, most of their life.
And you walk around all that time and don't know you have this unique ability, and then, you've been bullied.
You've been bullied all your life, rejected all your life, and you didn't know why.
And couldn't make friends.
And you couldn't even make friends or relationships, but now making friends or relationships is even more impossible today. It's even worse because the places to make friends or relationships is being shut down.
But a lot of
and that's just here.
And people really didn't realize when Chris got slapped. What happened to Chris?
When he got slapped with Will Smith, people thought, oh, Chris Rock handled it well. He didn't understand the slap with Will Smith. He couldn't read Will Smith's body language.
Right. And
then there's some commentators that say, oh, he handled it well. And there's some blacks, if Will Smith did that to me, I would have whooped his ass.
Okay. So now that you got that off your chest.
And that's in the black community. But in the black community, if you are diagnosed with a unique ability, you know what they would say in the black community? Here's what they would say in the black community. Beat his ass, and if you say neuropsychologist, advocate for a neuropsychologist, we don't do all that in the black community.
Well,
especially with the Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, when he said some people needs killing. And he also said, and him and J.D. Vance that even said that you're even weak for being mentally ill. J.D. Vance and Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson of North Carolina. Wow. That's running for governor of North Carolina.
Well, see, we know that they have some kind of disability probably too.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, the shame of this is a lot of people are afraid to come forward with, talking about mental illness because it was just always taboo, which meaning that...
It was always taboo, and the reason why it was taboo is because of the American Psychiatric Association and the Goldwater Rule.
And what's the Goldwater?
And the Goldwater Rule is like a gag order, like you cannot really talk about the diagnosis without the person's consent to evaluation, which is a lot of people that don't know or are denying the problem are not going to go get the help in the first place.
But they have a duty to warn.
They have a duty to warn. And they're doing this, and the APA is doing the same things that was doing in the 1930s with Adolf Hitler when they did not talk about the dictator's duty to warn.
Yeah. So basically the APA needs to step up their game and do what?
They need to just get rid of the Goldwater Rule and warn before tyrants come.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're getting a better understanding of Gus and things that he can and cannot do. And weren't you proud of him when he expressed,
I was very proud of Gus Walsh. Because I was a Gus Walsh when he said, that's my dad. That's my dad at the Democratic National Convention. That's my dad. and it reminded me back to when I was a kid a little bit. When I couldn't say to mom, I love you, mom. And that
Well,
was very painful.
well, the good news is that you learn how to say
And
it.
I know how to say it now. At the time when I was 4 years, 10 months, they thought I would never even talk.
No, but you talking
Now
now.
I'm talking now.
And now people saying, and now he won't shut up.
Yep. Yep.
But that's okay,
Yep. Yep.
I mean, that's what when you look back at those years, and we look at where we were and where we are today. All this is based on it happens in the psychiatric community, it happened in the medical community, it happens in families. We don't read, we don't educate ourselves, and that's why a lot of people feel that if you take a child and they're acting out and you beat their butt, then they feel like it's gonna help. And what is it gonna do?
And it's actually going to aggravate them and make the behavior even worse. And it will turn them violent, not just against the parent, and sort of also, but to other society, and create more crime victims if you do that.
So that's something that not only our community but many communities need to work on. The in this day and age, and I've always said this there's many changes. There have been many changes, and with all the changes, uh, younger people like cannot walk through life without being.
Not being informed and reading.
Yeah, you got to be informed and read. Okay, we got one more. I think it's, let's see, the social interactions. Um, okay, let's do the visual spatial interaction. That's kind of cool.
And visual
Now,
spatial.
when you say visual spatial, we got problems with
Maps, charts, and graphs. And what's happening now with the computers, you don't have to worry about that, maps, charts, and graphs, because the computer can help you with the charts and graphs for you.
Yeah, but the problems with the maps, graphs, and chart, if you need to drive your car,
If you need to drive your car,
you're gonna have problems with what?
with directions,
Right, and you're gonna have problems parking.
you get problems parking, but there's even compensation for that because we have cameras and apps for that.
Yeah.
Like a Wazi, for example.
You don't drive
No, I don't drive, thank God. And I have no intention of driving.
because of the
Because the people on the road is impatient, number one, and taking care of a car is just too much. So I just went like I'm just gonna go just to by train or plane or ship.
all right. So you might have you have trouble with shapes, don't you?
Yeah, shapes, yeah.
You have problems with putting puzzles together,
Mm-hmm.
shapes, patterns.
Yeah.
You know, you don't even wear a lot of pattern clothes, do you?
No, I don't wear a lot of pattern clothes.
Okay. So we did understanding the graphs, which can that can hinder you from driving, directions.
Yeah.
Um, imagination. When somebody say, "Can you imagine?"
No, I cannot imagine because I need evidence based. And it's like an attorney. My brain is just like an attorney. Just the facts, Jack.
Just the fact
They don't do no imaginations or things like that.
they want yes or no.
They want yes and no,
no in between.
no in between,
No makeup.
no makeup, no make believe, nothing.
Yeah.
It's like my brain is just like the federal government sometimes, like 90% conviction rate because they want all the evidence first.
So a narcissist wouldn't like you too much, would they?
No narcissist, especially
Why? Why wouldn't they like?
because a narcissist, especially a psychopathic narcissist, do not like the facts.
Don't like the fact, and they love to tell what?
They love to tell lies.
Okay. So, but some people say the hard burning truth is kind of it's difficult for people to hear too. Like if you give the facts, that can be devastating also.
I mean, that could be devastation, but the truth is actually better in the short term than a long-term lie. Because when you're lying, then you have to come up with another lie, and it gets worse.
Math. How's you in math?
I don't do a lot of math.
So we got apps for that too, huh?
We have apps for math as well.
Yeah, because it's hard for geometry to
Yeah.
because it's abstract.
Math is very abstract. Like one time we were doing a multiplication, and when they say you carried this right here, I took it like, oh, I'm carrying something. No, I was carrying the 1 or the 5 or something like that. It's literally
Because it's columns.
it's
Math is
columns,
in
columns.
Yeah. So getting a better understanding of Gus and you and many people that have this very unique ability, um, it's it can help a lot of parents know that, like, if they have to go up to the school and their kid might be acting out, or they might be, you know they might say verbally brutal. They're not. They might need to be tested, assessed, but they got to remember to go outside.
Go outside to the neuropsychologist. Do not go to the school, and do not go to a regular psychologist. Go to your university medical center that's trained in the brain neuropsychology, which is the top of the top. Do not be cheap.
And we want to give a special shout out to KU Med because they were
the ones that helped me at 4 years, 10 months. Naming that too.
Yeah, when they say NOS mean not otherwise specified, they had to specify it, and so then we found out that's something that you have.
Yeah.
That's something that you can live with. It's not like you're not capable of taking care of yourself. You're not capable of living your life.
Living my life is just that I don't do things that are triggered in the first place.
Yeah. Well, that needs to be taught to a lot of people because a lot of people's behavior get triggered on what? On comments.
On comments and
validation.
Like and subscribe. I don't do that.
You say you don't do that. I know, because a lot of times at the end of every channel, they might say, well, like this video.
Like this video, subscribe to this video, get some validation. I'm about the information and the facts and the truth.
Yeah. So it's kind of like if you come back, cool, and if you don't come back, that's still cool.
That's okay.
It's okay. Because it may not be something that you're interested in.
Yeah.
But we're going to wrap this up. And I'm glad that we got a chance to talk about Gus and what he has. And Gus has been the teacher, just like you've taught me a lot of things. Because sometimes when something happens to a person and it lands on your doorstep, the bottom line is that it forces you to go and get information on it. And so when you were struggling in school, it forced me to go and look it up and get a lot of information. Not only in this area, you had the autism spectrum, you had the Asperger spectrum, and we got an opportunity to have to go through so much of the spectrum because NLVD is not what?
It's not on the DSM-5 by the APA. Another failure of the APA is not putting NLVD-5 on the DSM-5, which caused devastating consequences for the education if you're sending your NLVD to school.
So he ends up where?
He ends up in a self-contained school and non-dissatisfied. And it's even worse in New York because if you don't exist, if you're not in the list of New York, you can't even get an IEP in New York. I'm not making this up. You can't make that up.
Okay. Yeah. But the bottom line is when you go for those evaluations and assessments, how they may be effective, they may not, because the problem with those assessments is you got teachers, like you say, that may not carry them out, and with the schools being overcrowded now, there's like hardly no room to carry them out.
30-to-1 ratio for kids. There's hardly no room to carry it out. And then you got some that even want to privatize education. If you privatize education, that is going to be another problem too. Because what that really means is that they will pick and choose who gets into the private school, privatizing education. And especially the Republican plan on privatizing education. And what that will do for unique abilities if you get rid of the Department of Education. It will be even worse for unique ability.
Oh, what is it?
The Project 2025.
is another story, another day.
Yeah.
We're going to hang out with Gus today.
Yeah.
We're going to hang with Gus
Wait,
today.
good day.
Because we want people to understand that there's a unique ability out there that's being overlooked.
Not only being overlooked, but don't even
Exist on the DSM-5.
the DSM-5, and the APA doesn't want a DSM-5 because it's holding them accountable.
Yeah, it does hold them accountable. So one of the things that they need to do when they go back in and look at this particular unique ability is understand that this is not a behavior disorder. People that fall in the category of nonverbal learning disability is not emotional disturbed. You know, they don't have intentional behaviors. They have
The unintentional behaviors. And that's the opposite side of the intentional behavior.
And they'll end up
And they'll end up like if you're black, and they'll end up like with this book, The New Jim Crow, From Prison to Pipeline. Read this book by Michelle Alexander, The New Jim Crow. And it'll end up like that.
because it starts in school.
It starts in school, and once he starts in school, it goes to prison.
Yeah, a lot of kids end up getting kicked out.
On the streets, and then going to the criminal justice system.
Yeah, and a lot of people are in the criminal justice system now because they haven't been properly assessed. And one of the things that they need to do, even within the election, the conversation of mental health needs to be
addressed. I mean, mental health, who we elect is also, that needs to be, mental health in politics has to be a conversation in hand. Because if we don't have that conversation, we're going to elect horrible, tyrannical leaders like Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel, Viktor Orban in Hungary, Vladimir Putin in Russia.
Okay, so
and that's just today's examples. Also, we got people like Nigel Farage in the United Kingdom, Maria Le Pen in France.
Okay, so we had people that needed to be assessed. They weren't, and they got in. And who put them in? The people put them in.
And the people put them in.
So, on that note, we're gonna close it out because shout out to Gus.
Shout out to Gus Ross. And thank you for opening the conversation about nonverbal learning disability. And I would also like to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for even having this for picking Tim Walz so we can have this conversation about mental health and politics. And I would also like to thank Kamala Harris for picking Tim Walz so we can have the conversation about nonverbal learning disability. Because it would not have been possible without the best sacrifice, and also to President Biden as well.
And we developed a blog,
11 years ago, and I want you all to read this. Go to nlvdrecognition.com, okay? WordPress.com. We developed this blog 11 years ago, and a lot of the things that we said 11 years ago has come back, and it has came back even worse than the blog.
But it opens the door for assessment for people that don't understand why their kids are acting out, So that's the good thing. They got another diagnosis that they can look at, and they don't have to consider it as a behavior disorder. They don't. So we're gonna close it out. We hope not to lose this one.
We hope not to lose this one, folks.
Yeah, because spatial, when you go to touch something and you touch the wrong thing, that will take your video out. So that's a problem that, we still have to work on, with our finger dexterity.
Yes.
So on that note, you want to have anything else to say?
I think that will be it for now. And tune on to the next vlog and the next live stream. And I got five more shorts that are coming out. So tune in.
And there you go.
And there you go. Peace and good luck, everybody.